What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Joel Friday TV podcast. I am Joel Friday. Bienvenido. Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday. Do me a favor. Sorry, it is Wednesday. Do me a favor. Hit that like button. Smack it. Lay the smack down on like, subscribe, and share button. Tell your peoples about the show so we can get the subscribers up and a message out. Do it now. You still got time. Topics to be covered. Lord have mercy. We done got into some stuff this morning on the JLP show about a bunch of stuff. And I kind of wanted to touch on some things. And so we're going to cover a little bit of that and a couple of different things and get into it because it was fun though. But are we a product of our environment? Are we a product of our environment? If so, how? You can call in at any point during the show at 888-775-3773, and we could talk about the subject at hand. I will take your calls. I know I kind of neglected a call that was on the line, but I had to get to my point. But I will take your calls, and I will read your super chats live on air. But you can call in at 888-775-3773, and we could talk about whatever you want. On the name of Jesus. If for whatever reason you can't call in, but you still have a question or comment and you want to support the show, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/JoelFridayTV. The link is in the description. You can send your question or comments there or go directly into the YouTube chat, live chat. Hit the super chat button and send your question or comments there. I will read them live on air. So you do have that option. And I usually am pretty good. I've gotten better at it. So you can do that. Wiggle Man said, what happened to the old intro, Joel? Count on me. Good question. The old intro was copywritten. So I was getting flagged for continuing to play that on the show, and they were demonetizing me. And they were cutting the funds. So I had to let it go. But I love that song. I wish I can keep it. We tried all we could. We tried talking to the owner and all that stuff, but we just couldn't. We couldn't swing the rights. So maybe one day I'll have enough pool to get it licensed. But anyway, are we a product of our environment? I'm going to start off by getting to a call just because I feel like I owe the callers some attention. And then I'll get into some points that I wanted to add to the conversation this morning. If you guys missed it, when you get a chance, podcast the Jesse Lee Peterson show from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on today's date. We got into why the Ethan Crumblay was a school shooter. So he went into a certain school and he was 15 years old and shot a few students. And the parents, he's going to jail, right? He's been convicted. But the parents are now also being convicted for not seeing the signs that could have prevented the shooting. And a lot of people disagree. They don't think that the parents should go to jail. I think they should be locked them joints up. And I have certain reasonings that I got into it on the Jesse Lee Peterson show if you didn't see it. And we got into it for like 2 hours straight, and it was fun. So I have a few more points I'm going to add today, but first let me go to the calls, and we'll go from there. Shout out to the chat. What's going on, chat? Mod Squad, hold it down. Amazing stuff. Jamie out of Minnesota. Jamie, welcome to the show. Jaime, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Hey, how's it going, Joel?
All is well. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Hey, I was listening to you guys talking about that earlier this morning, and I was on your side. I was like, yeah, it was a snap judgment. You know, I just heard about this, and I thought, yeah, it does make sense to make them parents pay for what their kid did. I mean, but that was a snap judgment, you know. And then I started listening to the conversation.
Yeah.
And I could see points for them not going.
Okay.
But then I saw, you know, I was sitting here just a little while contemplating what you were saying, and I thought they're going to use this to take away that Second Amendment right.
I agree.
And that's wrong.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with that.
The thing about the environment is you got to make some sacrifices. And this this.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Sacrifices.
Look, the just thing, and I'm talking about righteous judgment.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought. This is the righteous judgment, putting the parents in. And we all know that people don't got righteous judgment.
Right.
It's evil.
Right.
And so we got to sacrifice that to make sure that we protect the other thing.
Oh, sacrifice.
Punishing the parents for allowing their kid to be this little monster in order to protect the Second Amendment. What do you think of that?
Interesting. That's a good question. Which one should be priority? I have to think about it, but I do know that at the heart of all things, in my opinion, I feel like it always, if we focus on the parenting, right, then these things will change. But, even in this case, even in this court case, they were even saying that this has nothing to do with the parenting. And I disagree with that. So they're not even fully seeing it for what it is. But I still think that justice was served. But it's unfortunate, though, that it is an attack on the Second Amendment. It is attack on white people, because obviously this happens so much in other communities that this should not be a new thing. But it's because it was a quote-unquote school shooter. It's because, this whole white supremacy thing, which is unfortunate. But I think that, I don't know, it's hard to, I don't want to just let the parents go because of, we don't want to attack the guns and whites. You know what I mean? I still feel like in this situation, it was, justice was served to me.
I'm right there with you too, that you can't let the parents go scot-free, because if you do punish, and this is if this was a perfect world,
right?
If they could just keep themselves to only this one parent, these two parents, punishing them severely, so then the rest of the parents start looking at their relationships with their kids,
right,
and how they're watching them, that would be a good thing to...
You know what I'm thinking right now, not to cut you off, I'm thinking right now, I think, in my opinion, that the sacrifice that should be made is the sacrifice that white people and the people who are for the Second Amendment, I think that they should make the sacrifice for this case and take the hit, because I think that what this does is, even if there's a undertone of an agenda of the gun and the whites, which we believe that to be true, the face of this trial is because the parents didn't do enough. And I think that that's important, even if they don't even really believe it, these judges, right? Even if the court really doesn't believe that, I still think that being the face of it is important. So I think that in this case, the Second Amendment lovers and the whites to just take the hit and allow this to be true, so it could be a wake-up call for other parents to be like, hold on, maybe Johnny, we need to make sure Johnny ain't acting up, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if Johnny is acting up, then we gotta take all this dangerous stuff away and lock it up better.
Right.
And what was it in that story? Did they buy it for him?
Well, I think they bought it for him. And I want to ask you really quick, Jaime, to get your thoughts on this, is that, do you have any kids?
I do. I'm 4 months old. So I was really thinking about this since I'm at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
How I'm gonna take care of my boy.
Yeah. And I want to ask
going forward.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, do you think that parents, in your opinion, as they're raising their children, they know their children enough to know what type of behavior they exude? So, for example, do you think, in your opinion, that the parents, could kind of had signs and examples that he might not be fit to own a gun, do you think that parents kind of just know who their child is to some extent? Do you think that parents know?
Well, I think you asked two questions there. The first one, are there signs? Most definitely, yes. The second question, are their parents aware? No.
Right.
And that's the problem, is the parents are not aware. They're unconscious on this situation, on their own kids. And I was talking to somebody at work mentioning this, and they aren't. They're going to work. Mom and dad going to work. Mom should be home watching the kid, reporting to dad.
Yeah.
So that dad can take care of business.
Right.
And there was that other point about corporal punishment in the house. The social, what is that, CSP, Child Protective Services or something?
Right.
You got to be afraid of those people taking your kids away. And I don't know how, because I got spanked when I was a kid. Nobody called CPS for that.
Right.
Because I feel like it was probably more controlled. It wasn't out of hand.
What do you think? Do you think that the parents kind of know enough to know whether or not they should buy their child a gun? Like, what do you? Why do you think that these people bought their child a gun? In your opinion,
well, they did it because they're evil.
Okay. Do you think that they were blind to believing that it can cause harm, or do you think that they didn't even see their son as this kid that would even do such a thing?
They're blind. They're evil.
Yeah.
Evil, man.
Yeah. I agree. Jaime, I appreciate it. And hopefully, the awareness of yourself and overcoming and learning and listening to, the Bond Network and all that stuff will help you go in the right direction.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right. I appreciate the take, Jaime. Call me again.
Yeah, great topic. Thanks.
All right, thanks. I'm gonna get to some more calls. I want to make this quick point, and I'm gonna get to some more calls. It's only gonna take me less than 2 minutes to make this point, and I'm back to the calls. Is that I feel like this, in my opinion. I feel like when there's a spider in my house, right? When there's a spider and it's crawling around, and then I'm like, what the? And I kill the spider, and I'm like, whew, I'm good. And then I see another spider, boom, and then I kill that spider, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then if I see a third spider, I'm like, okay, something's going on here. I got to figure out where this is coming from. And then you realize that there's some type of home that's being made in my house from the spiders. So you realize that we now have to stop killing the spiders that we see. We need to go to the source. We need to go to where the spiders are coming from. Where these spiders are coming from. They're coming from the mother spider, right? And I'm not saying I'm not picking on mothers. I'm just saying the spider that gave birth to all the other spiders. You go to that spider and you kill it. Why? Or you release it. I'm killing it. But why? Because you go to the source, deal with the source, and then there will be no more other spiders creeping around. They can never keep giving birth to the spiders. You go to the source and you get it out. So I say that to say that if we just continue to put the children in the jails, lock the children up, but not the ones who are creating the bad children, meaning influencing the bad children, and we're not holding them accountable, then they're never working on themselves to overcome. So I'm going to add more to that after I get to some more calls. Let me go to James out of New York. James, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Joel?
How's it going, James? All is well.
Oh, good. I was actually that guy who called before me. He got you to elaborate on how you felt more about the situation.
Yeah.
Because I had some questions for you. When I was calling in earlier, and I was kind of giving you some pushback on it, my reasoning for that pushback was maybe because if we do charge parents for something that someone else does, the motivation for that crime could be solely to destroy the parents. So, like, say if a kid's having problems anyway, and he hates his parents, and he's like, you know what? I wanted to kill these kids anyway, and now I'm going to blame it. I'm going to write it down somewhere. I'm going to blame that my parents caused this and that. And then, like, what happens is if you make a precedent to charge the parents for this kid's crime, even though there's really, like, I know there's, like, no real evidence that they, encouraged him or planned with him to do this crime.
Right.
But if you make the precedent that you can send the parents of kids to jail, we know kids lie. If we're talking from a spiritual place and like saying like these kids are doing evil things because of, the evil spirits that live within them, maybe it's not like where they learned it, like you were saying before, like with the manipulation they learned from their parents. You can learn bad things from as a kid more from just your parents. You can learn from your uncles. You can learn from strangers or the environment, like you were just saying, that you were brought up in. You can learn it there too. But the only reason why I think you're morally right, like what you're saying, like the parents should be held accountable. But I don't know if charging, like sending them to prison and then making a precedent to do that to other parents who might not, have the same thing, but now they're able to go at everybody because of this initial thing.
Well, I'll go ahead. Finish your point.
No. I'm waiting for you.
Okay, so there's two points that I want to make there. Hopefully, I remember them both. The first one is that the point of it is a wake up call to the blind, and the wake up call to the blind is the parents that aren't taking raising their children seriously. And they see these signs, and we know that they see these signs, but they brush them off like, oh, he's okay. He's good at heart, all these different things. And they're pushing them to the side, and they're not realizing until it's too late that they didn't do enough. And even when it's too late, they still say, oh, well, he was just a bad kid. Nobody's ever like pointing back to the parents and saying, and making the parents accountable. Now, also to the first point that you made, you were saying that the children can just lie. Well, I don't think that even if the children do lie and say my parents made me do it and they try to get out of it, it's still the behavior from the parents, and not solely from the parents, but mostly from the parents that influence them to do the act in general. So whether they blame it on them, they blame it on themselves, whoever they blame it on, it's still the parents' responsibility to lead and guide their children in the right way. And if the uncles are jacked up and the environment is jacked up, they still got to come home to the parents most of the time of the day to be taught the right way to go. So it's just hard for me to believe into it. What do you think?
No, and again, I agree with you. Like, I agree with you morally, like I think you're 100% right. The only thing I'm worried about is if it goes through, like, becomes law. Like, that's a precedent now.
And what would be wrong with it? Like, give me an example. If you could think of, what do you think would be wrong about that?
Because, let's just say, like, maybe it's like an adoptive child, or maybe it's like kids who are in the system who don't really have any maybe real attachment to their parents.
Right.
Growing up, I've seen I've never seen someone kill people over it, but I've seen kids manipulate, the people who they were living with to, get over on things. I've seen the people who were housing the kids manipulate the children and get the kids in more trouble than they should have been or whatever, just because of the position they're in. Right. But I'm just worried that it'll open up a can of worms because like, because, this isn't the first school shooting. The first one was Virginia Tech or whatever with that guy. And we still don't have, like, a, basis or understanding of how to deal with it. But I think the number one way that it will be, that parents would, benefit most from it is if these people who went through these situations did parent-teacher conferences, talk to parents, because, like, it's one thing if like some government official's telling you one thing, but like when you can speak to someone who's been through something before and has like firsthand knowledge of the actual thing, you can kind of like relate to them and have compassion towards them while also learning and taking something very seriously. So that was my only way.
And I agree. And I want to make one quick point. Then I just got to move the calls here for a time. But you're making good points. You're making good points. And I think that you're right in the sense that like a conversation needs to be had, and that conversation could open eyes. But I think there's a lack of even seeing that in people in general. That because we've been having parent-teacher conferences. We've been having the different things, but that's not working. And I think it's because, like you said, for one, that these like real deep spiritual conversations aren't being had, for one. But for two, there's no there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no like reason for these conversations to be had. There's no force. There's no there's no incentive for people to have these conversations, because if their kid is bad, then the parents pay no cost. So why are they going to fix it when it's not affecting them personally? So I could be wrong though, like on the situation as far as like the law goes. Maybe making the law is not the answer, but my thing is that like we need to find a way to point to parents that this is the issue, and sometimes just saying it is not enough. So that's why when the law is there, it kind of makes you be like, oh, okay, I have no choice but to make it happen. But that's just my opinion. I'm gonna get more into it, James. I just got some other calls here.
Nah, you're the man, buddy. I appreciate you talking more about it, because before there was like 4 other people in the room with you, so I felt like we couldn't really get it across. I just really want to like hear more like in depth of your thoughts about it.
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate that. Call me again.
Have a good day, Joel. Be safe.
All right, you too. Nice. I'm gonna just say this, and I'm gonna get to more calls. I'm gonna just throw in little comments in between the calls. Ko Samogi says, we are not product of our environment. We are children of God, with the super chat. I want to make sure I read that. Appreciate it, Kale. And yes, that's about to make my point. We're children of God, and God sent the law of the Bible. And this is just my opinion. God sent the law of the Bible, not for us to be subject to the law, right? But for us to know the boundaries, for us to recognize the boundaries, because the blind can't see, right? When we were blind, we couldn't see. So we don't know what left, right, up, and down is. The Bible tends to be an instruction manual just to point out the boundaries, so you know when you cross them and you see the consequences in your life, then you can report back to those boundaries that were laid out. That's what I feel like the purpose of the law and the word, the written word is so that, or like, the law, spiritual law and the physical law. So you know where you're out of bounds, because the lawless don't know nothing. They don't have it in their hearts to know that this is wrong, or even the intention to even try to figure it out. So sometimes the law steps in so you can be smacked in the face with it to realize that, oh, okay, I was wrong. And I think we live in a time that parents aren't getting smacked in the face enough. And I'm talking symbolically, YouTube. People need a reality check. And somehow we need to make point parents to the upbringing and to the heart, and sometimes the law is what's doing that. So if it's taking parents, if it takes a law to make parents second think things because they don't want to go to jail, then that's what we just had to do. Because everything else ain't working. But I could be wrong. Let me go to Frederick out of Los Angeles. Frederick, welcome to the show. You're on there.
How's it going, Joel?
All is well, man. How are you?
Yep. I like how you handled yourself earlier on Jesse's show with this point.
Appreciate it.
You can't pick sides. Because if you pick sides, you don't know which way the devil's going to take it. Because you can raise a good child, and kids are impressionable. And they can get around other kids, and they can plot and do whatever. So, true enough, it's on the adult to lock these guns up. But if we start allowing government to believe our kids over us, we in trouble.
And give me an example of what you mean by government believing the kids over whatever.
As in, if the kid go to school and draw pictures in art class.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then next thing you know, he got 3 art teachers from 4th grade, 7th grade, and 9th grade. They say, yeah, he been drawing them pictures a long time. But by 12th grade, he's shooting up the graduation. Should the parents go to jail?
I think so.
In line. Come on now. See, that's
why not though? Why not?
Because he could. That's not excessive. See, you got to draw the thin line between where kids' imaginations would be like drawing pictures of guns is probably okay, but you like they have real doctors and psychologists that diagnose kids that needs to be.
But we need to the psychologists and the doctors are the second opinions. We as parents and as adults need to be the first opinions, and we have the answer and the signs. How are our hands tied though? That's what I'm saying. Is like hands are not tied.
Because the CPS saying if you whoop your kids, you're going to jail.
Screw the CPS.
We can't discipline them.
Screw the CPS.
Yeah,
and plus,
you can't discipline your kids.
Yes, you can. That's the thing is that like the kids aren't telling on you unless they think that they can.
The teachers are telling on you. No, they're telling their teachers, I got a whooping, and then the police and CPS show up at your house.
Okay, that's fair. That's a good point. The thing is, too...
So, okay.
Okay.
So if the student tells them, just like the students are telling them, I feel like a boy, and you should call me this if it's a little girl, and the teacher's going along with it, and then they come in the house and tell the parents, I think you need to start calling your little girl this.
I see.
It works. You're giving the power too much to the kids that's underage. They're underage for a reason. Do you want to quit calling them minors and let the electric chair apply to everybody?
No, I get what you're saying now. You're saying that
let's quit calling them minors, and then that'll put the fear in their heart to be like, if I commit a crime, I might get the chair at 13. Yeah.
I know, but the thing is that like these kids are just subject to their parents. These kids are subject to their environment.
They're the ones being protected.
They're not.
They're the ones always being protected.
but they wouldn't even feel like a victim if first their parents would make them a victim. But let me agree with you really quick before we get into that. I agree that government has too much hand in people's personal lives, and then if a teacher can tell on the parents, that's insane, and that's not right, and that's none of the school's business, right? But even if the kid was getting beaten, and I'm just playing YouTube, but even if the kid was getting beaten, right, then it's still not the government's job to step in unless they really see.
You can't say that. So you're saying let's get to the source. The kid getting beat at home is why he's going to shoot up the school, and the teacher's not doing nothing about it. You're not getting to the source now, Joel.
What do you mean?
You're creating spiders. You're saying if the kid's getting abused and he comes to school, the teacher should not say nothing. You're sending them back home into an abusive situation, creating a monster, and then next 4 years he's going to shoot up a school, and you're saying, well, the government didn't get involved.
Well, I think
that
have
it both ways.
Okay. So you're right. Let me be clear. is I feel like to a certain extent, what I'm trying to say is that there should be parents or like teachers and bystanders can like say like, okay, we see something that seems kind of weird and blah, 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 blah. And there should be an investigation for it. There should be some type of like, okay, well, let's look how the kids being raised, boom, 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 before they can do anything. But oftentimes, like you were saying, is that the parents or the teachers will stick up for the kid and say, you can be a girl even though you're a boy. You know what? Don't listen to your parents. And then now these kids at 13 have the right to change their body parts. I don't think that that's good. I think at the end of the day, the parents should have say so on what their kids can and cannot do. But back to the original point, I think that
if your
parents,
if your kids get access to your guns, you're responsible.
But you're responsible no matter what as a parent. If they're under 18 and they live in your household, you're responsible no matter what. And no kid, in my opinion, I don't have kids, so I could be wrong, but no kid has even the desire to act up if his parents are of love, if his parents are teaching them in the right way, if their parents are doing, working on them. There's no way that the kids are going to become school shooters. It's just 1 + 1 does not equal.
A lot of these kids in the streets, gangs were started with families at home. You know what I'm saying? But not in LA.
But they would know. But see, that's
family started gangs.
But there's not. So a good child, in my opinion, who's raised by good, decent parents, the child has no desire to join a gang. There is no desire. If the home is peaceful, there's no desire.
The mafia and Italians was all family, and they all did crime.
But does it just because they're family?
Trump supporters are going to raise their kids as they feel like they've been cheated, so they putting a nip in the bud now. Because if Trump said, "Okay, we couldn't take January 6th, we're going to send our kids up there," no, y'all going to jail. We snipping this in the bud now because
I don't know what you mean.
See where this is going.
But that's the thing is that, like, I don't know what you mean, though, about the January 6th thing.
I mean, what if they sent their kids? Like, they know, like, they politics views, the kids adopt their parents' political views.
Right.
So the next generation of Trump supporters is going to be even crazier. So now, if we don't start nipping it in the bud now and locking up the Proud Boys' parents or whoever, and letting them know, no, y'all not going to be no insurrections with kids up here that we can't charge because they juvenile.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying lock up the parents so then these things don't even happen. And the parents would think twice. I think parents should be locked up more, or even if not locked up.
They need to lock up their guns. Because
but not the gun.
You can charge the kid. Charge the kid after he done showed what's it called? Premeditation. Now he done broke in my room, got in my drawer, got in my safe, and then that's premeditation. That's not my fault. It ain't how you raised them. It's about how you handle it.
No, but you don't. But you think that he's gonna be why would a kid raised properly break into his parents' room to steal a gun?
Why do we have penitentiaries?
Huh? But
why do we have penitentiaries?
You're thinking that you keep thinking that just because they have families that just automatically makes them good children. No, that you can have a mom and dad in the house and still be
That's
jacked
what
up.
I was saying. Exactly.
Right.
True enough. But I'm just saying, every parent is not the parent. It's not how the parents raise the kids.
What do you
mean?
How
society raise the kids.
How
the
not
parents
though?
Only spend 8 hours a day with their kids. From the time they get off at 4:00 and the time the kid go to bed, the school had them. You have them 8 hours, and then they sleep 8 hours.
So then, if you're
That's it.
All right, but you're by that
it's 50-50. You can't blame a parent for raising a kid 50-50 with a school system.
Well, last point, and then I got to move on to some other calls. But by the time they go to school, if you're gonna even put them in a public school in the first place, which is a risk, but if you're gonna put them in a public school in the first place, by the time they get to public school, you should have been preparing them enough and continue to prepare them to be able to handle these situations. And when these situations come up, bullies or like other people saying certain things, you should be able to like lead them and guide them how to properly deal with this situation. If they are you raise them right until they turn 5, let's say, and they go to school, and now their mind gets corrupt, and you have no idea about it until he turns 15 and shoots up a school. That's your fault, being blind. That ain't got nothing. I mean, it has something to do with the kid too.
I'm seeing both sides of the fence, and I'm just like, it's God's plan. We're gonna see where it goes. But
Right.
A lot of people are thinking the government's gonna come take their guns, and this is a way that they can easily say, we see the signs and you don't, and we're gonna take your gun. What if the parents don't see the signs, but their neighbors do? Like that lady called in the justice. They just gonna let it go on? No, you're about to go to jail.
Yeah,
because of what your neighbors are seeing your kids do. It's not gonna work.
Yeah,
all right, Joel, you have a great day.
I agree. Thanks, Frederick. I appreciate it. I gotta keep going with the calls. Laura Bibby with a super chat says, shout out Joel for a very interesting topic, amazing show. Right on, baby. I appreciate it. It's crazy stuff. American Anchor, baby, coming in hot. I second that with a generous donation. Thank you, American Anchor, baby. Right on. Appreciate it. It's amazing stuff. I do think that it's unfair that, not unfair, but that there is an attack on the gun and there is an attack on the whites. But in this specific case, we got to take the hit because this is also important that these parents are out of control. And yes, should it happen more in other communities? Yes. Other communities should also be somehow finding a way to point it at the parents and making them, convicting them for these things, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, however long, it kind of makes you second think. Chris with a super chat says, I third that. Right on, Chris. I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys for the super chats. Let me go to David, a first-time caller out of Oregon. We're going to keep the calls moving. David, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Hi, Joel. How you doing?
All is well. How are you?
All is well.
Nice.
I want you to continue this discussion about holding parents accountable.
Cool.
Let me just say I'm completely against government getting involved in family matters, but let me play devil's avocado.
Okay.
Do you believe we should hold parents accountable to children we find that have been kidnapped or trafficked?
Well, it's not if the child was kidnapped, then it's
poor
not
supervision.
You said what?
Poor supervision.
That's a slippery slope because it just depends on the circumstance. You can't always at all times have your eyes on your children, and sometimes unfortunate things happen. So I wouldn't necessarily say. I don't even think you can really all the times blame that on the children. I mean, on the parents.
Well, the poor parents are the ones who grow these traffickers and kidnappers.
So wait, so are you saying that we should blame, who are you saying that we should blame, the parents for the children being kidnapped, or I don't know what you mean?
Yeah, we find a kid that's been kidnapped.
Right.
We find out who their parents are, and then we hold the parents responsible.
But it's not the parents' fault that the kid was kidnapped. It could be, right? It could be in certain circumstances, but that's a little bit more harder to find because, I mean, anything can happen with a kidnapping. The kids can get kidnapped while they're at their grandma's house. The kids can be kidnapped while they're at school. You know, it can be.
But it's the parents' fault.
Why though? Why do you say?
Why they drop them off at school? Why they drop them off at grandparents' house?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're making a point and I'm missing it, but I just think that that's a little bit tougher because it's not like harm, whether unconscious or conscious, that the parent is doing to the child by dropping them off at grandma's or any of that stuff. Like they're just living life, doing a regular thing. You could be in the store, you could be with your child, and then somebody come up and take your child. Like that's why I say it's a slippery slope. I don't think that's a reflection of bad parenting if a child gets kidnapped. It can be though in some cases.
All these child trafficking stories, wouldn't you say parents play a role in that too?
Well, it depends on like the ones who are doing the trafficking or the ones who are kidnapped. What do you mean?
The ones who don't care about their kids and they just disappeared.
There's definitely cases to where kids are caught up in that because of they're running the street. So you're making a point that is not wrong. There are cases where parents have neglected their children or failed to keep their eyes on their children, so the children are out running amok and being wild and free. And you're right about that. There's cases that does happen, and parents should be to blame, but there should be an investigation to see the result of these things, to find out if the parents should be tried.
I've had a neighbor, I watched her kids 1 hour or more outside while she's upstairs, and they are almost toddlers. The oldest one maybe 7 or 8.
Okay.
Yeah, just running outside with no supervision.
Right. That's a good example.
In the middle of the city. And then she'd be the first one to cry out loud how much she loves her children.
That's a good point.
Due to her lack of supervision, she's growing the kidnappers and child traffickers. Should we hold her responsible?
We should hold her responsible. After the investigation is done, to see, like, to gather more evidence of what happened, because just one incident doesn't necessarily mean that she is a bad parent or like is not doing her job as a parent. But there is examples like that where parents are just neglecting their children, and they are out there at a young age, 5, 6 years old, with no supervision. And yes, in those cases, parents should be held accountable and responsible for that, because that is child abuse. It's child abuse, in my opinion.
But on the other hand, I was having dinner with my family, and one of the fathers at the table mentioned back when he used to live in another country, he knew a lady, her husband died, but she had to go make a living, so she would leave her children alone all day from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., and the oldest one is maybe 5 years old.
Oh, yeah. Bad parenting. Bad parenting.
Well, what can you do? Your husband died. You have to make a living. You have nobody to watch your kids.
But I don't think that we're left, if we're truly like children of God, right? And we're really working on ourselves or blah, 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 right? Not to be all like too deep about it. But if we're really like doing what we're supposed to, we wouldn't be left in those type of situations. You know what I mean? Like those situations, there would be a way to allow it all to work out. And for her to be, for one, you said the husband died?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of weird to me that there's nobody that can watch the child after the husband died. And for two, like for her to just leave and then I have to know more about the situation, but for her to leave and just have the 5-year-old just home by themselves, it doesn't seem like the right thing to do. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think that people are in that circumstance that they're not put in. They didn't put that in there, or they didn't put themselves in that circumstance. I don't think she's just a victim of, well, what do? I have nobody to help me. I'm just all alone. I had no choice but to leave my 5-year-old. I don't buy into that part. What do you think?
Well, the only reason you want to hold the parents accountable is because the kid hurt other kids, right?
The kid hurt other kids? For the
school shooter.
No, just because they failed their children and it caused it.
JLP always says mothers have no love for their children. Right. So if we get the government involved in family matters, our prisons will fill up fast.
With mothers?
Yeah.
Well, see, the thing is, I'm not even mad. Because here the thing is that I think that you go to prison if crimes are committed, but I think that the point of the law being against the parents in this way is just for parents to question themselves. So just because mothers aren't giving love, we don't mean that we just need to throw them into prison, right? But there should be some type of consequence that happens, meaning like when their child becomes this, this person who wants to kill or be destructive. I think we have to do an investigation and figure out where it goes to.
What about children who commit suicide? Should we hold the parents accountable?
Yes.
Like jail time?
That's a good question. If a child commits suicide, does the parents go to jail? I have to think about that one. About that one because it's
all right.
It's
get
not
to another caller.
Okay, I appreciate it, David. Call me again.
All right, yes, sir.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Listen, guys, I'm not a lawmaker. So I'm not even saying that, like, there's so much that goes into this kind of stuff. So I'm just like giving my opinion. So with the suicide thing, there's no direct effect to anybody else other than the person involved with suicide. But at the end of the day, parents should always be looking at themselves, but parents don't look at themselves. Why don't parents look at themselves? Why doesn't not anybody look at themselves? Because they don't have to. You know what I mean? They don't have to look at themselves. And if we allow people to stay blind and impose that on others, then others have to suffer for it. Then at some point you have to say like, okay, well, what am I not doing? You know what I mean? Like, and I think that there was a point that I was going to make really quick, and I'll get to more calls, is sometimes the blind needs a wake-up call, right? Sometimes the blind needs a wake-up call. Why? Is because there's comfort in being blind. And if you want to be blind, you could be blind, but don't be blind and impose your blindness on me. Because when you impose it on me, then it's of love, in my opinion, to now put my foot down and not accept it. So I feel like sometimes it's good to throw that punch. Symbolically, YouTube. It's good to put your foot down and lay the hammer down on certain things because now they're imposing it on your life. Look at how the country is going. Look at how like all this transgender stuff and all that stuff is being imposed on children and all that stuff. It's like, you can be transgender, go be it. Nobody cares, but don't impose it on me now. And when you impose it on me, now I got to say something. And that's love because you're not accepting it. You're not allowing it. So I feel like it's love of love, or it can be of love, right? When we punish those who are having an effect on their children who have effect on other children. This kid shot up and killed these other kids, right? And it's because the parents were blind and didn't raise the child right, in my opinion. So we throw the punch by throwing them in jail or giving them a consequence. So other parents like them will realize that, wow, this is a major effect this action had on other people's lives. And it's not okay. It's not okay. So there has to be consequences, and not just spiritual consequences, because not everybody's really working on the spirit or even concerned about the spirit. Physical consequences too. That's just how I feel. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but that's what I believe. Let me go to Rick out of Hampton, Virginia. Rick, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
What's up there, Joel?
What's going on, Rick? How are you?
How you doing, Joel? Man, I'm fine, man. You know, I like your topic. We are part of our environment. You know what? I would have to say yes, we are, because you know how how Jesse preached in ministry.
Yeah,
that we should be an example instead of like reading the Bible. We should live by it.
Yep.
You know, so your kids see you living like a bat out of hell, they're gonna represent. You ever heard the saying, kids takes the personality of their fathers? So if a woman gets involved with an out of control man, 9 out of 10 of kids gonna act just like them.
Exactly.
You know,
and do you think that these kids, if they have that example of like a bad father, that they're more likely to be a school shooter opposed to the kid that had a good father?
You know what? I truly believe when a kid goes shooting, he was lacking something, and I truly believe his parents missed it. You understand what I'm saying?
Say that last part one more time.
I truly believe, like, when a kid go do a shooting,
yeah,
I think it was something there all the time that the parents just missed it. You understand what I'm saying?
So like,
but what I'm saying, let's say if he was going through some stuff and the parents just didn't pay attention, and to the point he got out of here, maybe he was being bullied,
right?
And they never asked him how his day went, you know, and he got to the point where what Popeye used to say, "I can't stand no more. I will not take it no more. I will not stand no more." And he just went off, man. You know, so I don't believe kids are born like that.
Interesting. And you make a good point, Rick. And I'm so out of time here in a second, but you make a good point is that like sometimes things do fly underneath the radar and sometimes parents don't catch everything. But where I think that the problem came in with this specific situation is that they actually had proof. The guy Drew, he said he has these thoughts that the devil's in his mind. He has these voices, and then he drew blood everywhere, and then they still ignored that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, see, like that. They had the one, they just ignored it, or either they ignored it totally, or they it just went on their radar. Right. Anytime when people say they're hearing voices, you better believe that's a spiritual battle. And what I believe what causes that is anger. Anger held too long will turn to out of control rage.
I agree. And do you think that these parents, in your opinion, should be tried or be in jail, convicted?
You know what? That, to me, in my opinion, Joel, that got to be a case-by-case thing. Because let's say, like, some parents tried and it just got on their radar, you know, because no parent wants their kids to do that.
Right.
Now, if they live in the background, you know, they doing drugs and stuff like that, they just live in the gang, they should. But, you know, I want to take that on a case-by-case thing because
okay, what about these? What about these? Just because time here, I gotta. What about these?
Go ahead.
What about these parents that like saw that the kid was drawing these, you know, alarming type of photos, and then the school recommended them to put him in like get some type of help, and then they ignored it, and then still send them back to school. Do you think these parents should be tried or convicted?
Those parents, yes, because they had to warn it. And then, to me, the school don't have to accept them. If they know he got a problem and the parents refuse to, they don't have to accept him into the school.
Right. So the school is at fault, too, for...
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I agree, Rick. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem, man. Love your show. Love all you guys' shows. Stay blessed. Love y'all. May God continue to prosper all y'all shows.
Right on. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. Call me again. Gotta go. Sorry, didn't mean to cut Rick off there, but I'm so out of time. Gotta go. Riley Mestropetro with a super chat, generous super chat. Thank you, Riley. It says, shout out to 6-year-old me who lived 1 mile from California State Prison. Prison life is rough. Right on, 6-year-old Riley. Yeah, that is kind of crazy. But I appreciate it, Riley. Appreciate you guys for the donations and all that good stuff. Gonza says, all praise Kim Joel Un. Love you, buddy. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Gotta end, guys. Just work on yourself. In my opinion, if we just work on ourselves, follow God, do the things that we see in front of us to do, then our steps will be guided, and we'll learn from these situations quickly, and it won't have to get out of hand in this way because we're picking up on the signs when we're doing the right thing. If you're neglecting your children and both the parents are not in the home and both parents are working and out like trying to make a life for themselves while their children's being raised by somebody else all day, then you can't be mad when this stuff happens to you. If you do the right thing, you'll get the right results, in my opinion. Gotta go. American Anchor Baby's coming in. Switch over to his channel, Joel Friday TV across the board. Appreciate you guys. As always, I'm back here tomorrow for my last show of the week. I'll see you tomorrow. Gotta go.